Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to those who joined us for our first session. I really apologize for the technical glitch in sending out the link, and we'll make sure that does not happen again for sessions 3 and 4. So we're really glad you're here today, and we'll get to our introductions of our speakers in a minute. But first, could everyone please mute except when you are speaking? And also, as we will be recording this session, if you would rather your face not be recorded, go ahead and turn off your camera. Today's session is for seasoned Get Out the Vote workers and brand new volunteers alike. All questions are welcome. That said, we have a ton of material to cover today, and we are getting a bit of a late start. So in interest of time, please leave your questions for the end. To get in the queue, you can type star hand up in the chat box or type in your full question, and someone will be monitoring the chat and they'll decide when it's best to answer your question. This presentation will be shared with everyone who signed up, and the recording will as well. So here essentially is what we're going to be covering today. It's a lot of information. Don't worry about writing everything down. As I said, we'll be sharing the links, the recording, and the slides after the meeting today. So let's get started with some introductions. As I said a minute ago, my name is Annie Grawl. I'm here today with Anuradha Gamawat and Ada Shane. Helen Morgan is not able to attend today's session, but she put in a ton of work on the slides, and I really want to thank her for her help. As a reminder, our last session dealt with an introduction to voting from abroad. We went over the federal law, the Uniform and Overseas Absentee Voting Act, which is known as UOCAVA, and we talked about how voting from abroad is different from voting when you live in the United States. Our next session will be an official training session where you will learn how to help people register to vote from abroad and how to request their ballots and how to assist them to return their ballots. At the end of session 3, which is on November 18th, and once you complete the 2 mandatory quizzes, you will be a certified voter assistant. And then in session 4, we will talk about how to put all of this new knowledge together. Today, Anuradha and I will talk about how to organize and host a GOTV event. But first, I'm going to turn the mic over to our special guest, Ada Shen, who will talk about the importance of the GOTV work we are doing in Democrats Abroad.
Thank you so much, Annie. I really appreciate it. So hi, everybody. My name is Ada, and I am the Europe, Middle East, Africa Get Out the Vote coordinator. And I'm actually based in Paris, France, and I vote in Orange County, California. It is very important for us to understand, whoopsie, sorry, my laptop is sliding, for us to understand a little bit about what do we mean by get out the vote and what are some approaches that we can take to it. So Annie asked me to kind of review the slides that we recently shared at the EMEA regional retreat in Brussels. So I'm very happy to walk through that. And at the end, I'm always available for any additional kinds of voter help questions or just sort of organizing questions. But I will do that probably primarily through Annie, since she is now your elected Get Out the Vote coordinator for Spain. So congrats on that again. Oh, okay, so first slide, please. Or did you want to share your? Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, great, perfect, thank you. Okay, so what do we mean by get out the vote? So get out the vote, we actually often, within Democrats Abroad land, when we talk about get out the vote, we are often referring to voter registration, the act of voter registration itself, which is itself nonpartisan. But get out the vote is actually a partisan term. It is literally when the party, political, partisan interests have an interest in mobilizing people who are going to vote for their team, their side, right? This interest in getting out the vote is therefore both partisan mobilization as well as a piece of nonpartisan mobilization. So in the United States, when we talk about get out the vote, that is almost always a partisan activity. But what we find is through Democrats Abroad, oh, sorry, go back to the previous slide, through Democrats Abroad, that we actually catch more flies with honey. by having a big sort of nonpartisan mobilization side through Vote from Abroad, we are actually able to get people who end up joining Democrats Abroad. I think the majority of the new members that we find are actually coming in through Vote from Abroad. So because we've been doing this for like 20 some years, at least with Vote from Abroad, we've actually gotten really, really good about how to vote from abroad. And we have this beautiful synergy between members who learn about how to vote from abroad. Maybe they came in because they were helped as a voter abroad. They join the organization. Many are inspired to do this kind of service, this public service project of Democrats Abroad. I've had Republicans volunteer for me. These were never Trumper Republicans, mind you. People who were independents, who wanted to support Sanders and were grudgingly willing to be affiliated with Democrats, who totally respected what we were doing with Vote from Abroad, even if they weren't necessarily totally convinced about becoming a Democrat abroad themselves. So there's a lot of value to what we do with the nonpartisan side, but make no mistake, we are not dummies. We do it because it works to get out the overseas vote. And we've become very, very good at it. However, okay, next slide. Oops.
Sorry, it's fighting with me.
Of course. So this is our challenge, the overseas voter engagement curve. This is an illustrative chart. It's just a thing that I drew. It's not specifically driven by data. But this is generally what every election year kind of looks like for us, right? Which is we will get, any given election year, including this year, which is surprisingly an election year, we will get a little bump on International Voter Registration Day, which is, January 15th. We really try hard to make that a thing and get people to really, get that FPCA in early, get that ballot request or get that registration done early in the year. That is good then for all ballots for which you're eligible, all elections for which you are eligible for the rest of that year. Okay. We will have another bump thinking ahead to 2026. We'll have a little bump in this in January. We'll have another bump in the primaries window, right? Which will cover, I don't know, six to 8 weeks or so. It'll be a long window where there's some interest in primaries. But there is no flattening the curve for what we're going to hit once we hit the fall. So we come out of August, and maybe there will be a little bit of activity around August, but we're going to come out of August and we're going to be into a big peak. Hopefully, if we're doing anything right in America, hopefully we have a lot of people showing up and wanting to register and vote. And there is no way to really flatten that curve. No matter how much voter registration we try to do in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and August, we're going to hit this bump in September, October, heading into November. And in the first week of November, which is, late last week of October, first week of November, which is the window we're in right now, we're actually done with our overseas voting, right as, people are having a big interest back in the United States. Okay. So, but we actually continue. We also do a voter protection. We do runoff elections. We do a number of things. Hold on a quick second. Hold on a second. I got to deal with my dog who's barking. Hang on a second.
No, Steve.
Okay, sorry about that. I apologize. Okay, so as I was saying, this is basically that curve, and there's nothing we can really do to flatten that curve, but we can prepare for it. So next slide, please. We cannot flatten the curve, but we can build a bigger boat to ride the wave. Okay, and that is where you come in. Next slide, please. Remember that thing? We're going to need a bigger boat. That's us. All right, so we sit at the nexus between members and voters. right? And a lot of times, hopefully, our members are voters, but there's this synergy, right, between those who are members and those who are voters. And only 1 to 2%, optimistically, of all Americans abroad are actually members of Democrats abroad. And when we've got 4.4, 5.5, or 9 million Americans abroad and only 7 to 10% of them vote, there's no flattening that curve. We are not foreseeably going to have this problem where, oh my gosh, we ran out of people to register. All right. So there's always going to be more people out there to register. And even so, even with the turnout being as abysmal as it is, right? Only 7 to 10% vote. I mean, that's terrible. But our impact is mighty. We are often the margin of victory in close elections across the country for Democrats. And we're going to see that again in a week, right? For the November elections. The question for us perennially when we engage ourselves in getting out the vote is, how do we best use who we are, who you are, sitting in situ in Spain? How can you use who you are to better engage members to drive more voters to the polls, right? Okay, next slide. These are the 4 priority states, statewide elections we're focused on. Mamdani is amazing, and I'm very happy Democrats Abroad is very visibly out there supporting the Democrat in this case in the election. He is the nominee. But these are the 4 critical statewide elections, right? And the reason is if you want to really defend democracy and stop Trump, we got to win these 4 states. We've got the ballot measure and Prop 50. This stuff is going on right now. We have the ballots to be returning in California, in Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Okay, and these are very critical, and you will be hearing all, if you haven't been hearing about it already, don't worry, you will be hearing about it on election day. Okay, next one. So the things that we were doing was thinking about what are the things that country committees and also non-country committees, we have an entity called the non-country committee. What are the things that local organizers can be doing right now in 2025 to help us prepare for 2026? And, don't worry about like, gosh, there's all these things I wish I had done this cycle. Normally we are not even active in the year immediately following. We're not this active in the year immediately following a presidential election year. We've had to be more active than usual, and this actually did turn into a fairly sizable election year, considering it's not a regularly scheduled federal election year. But everything is an opportunity. From this moment, the moment you undertake to be a part of this, that is the moment you begin. The past is already the past. It doesn't matter. You're going to learn from every moment. And that's one of the major questions that we asked. Go ahead, next slide.
Actually,
And
that's
I'm not going to tell you the answers, or did you want to do the answers part or have this discussion?
yeah, no, I did not include the answers part of your presentation because I thought that the last comment there was a really good segue to where we want to go from here.
Perfect. Then
So what we can do. So that's what we're here to talk about. Thank you so much, Ada. And I hope you'll stick around because I'm sure that we'll have questions if you're able to stay. And if not, we'll put people in touch with you by email.
I'm happy. I'll stay for a few minutes. I'm going to listen. I'm going to go off camera and I'll listen for a bit. Thank you so much for having me,
Okay.
Annie. And it's great to meet everybody. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right. So as I said earlier, what we are going to be talking about today is how to volunteer at or host a Get Out the Vote event. That's GOTV. We're going to have all kinds of tips and tricks, and we're going to gather for you in one place all the myriad of resources that are out there to help you. However, before you talk about even where you're going to have an event or who you're going to have it for, we need to talk about confidentiality. And to talk about confidentiality, we have to talk about the wiki. Because a blank confidentiality form that you need to fill out lives on a website called the wiki. And the wiki, as you can see on this slide, is a database of resources. These are internal resources for Democrats abroad leaders and volunteers globally. It has a wide range of information, from Get Out the Vote resources to caucus information. It uses a single shared password for all of us. The login box is at the top right on the page. It's indicated with the red letters. And the next slide is the actual address for the page. And then we'll go and see how to log in. I don't think you want to do this now along with me. Just watch the steps. And when you get the slides and the instructions, then you can do it on your own time with with the instructions written down. So this is the website for the wiki. The shared login for the wiki is dems@democratsabroad.org, and the password is votedems with a capital V and a capital D. You will probably see a message after you enter the login information saying that a code has been sent to the email dems@demsabroad.org, at which point you might panic because you don't have access to that email. But don't panic. What you're going to do is open a new browser window. We're going to give you the link for that, and it will show a list of logon codes. And the one that you need will be the one at the top of the list. Okay, so this is the second browser window that you will open to get your code. It all seems really strange, but when you go through it, having heard this explanation, you'll see that this really is how you do it. Okay. So, phew, now we are logged in. You can tell you're logged in because at the top right, circled in yellow, you will see a blue circle that says DA. And if you see the blue circle, you are logged on the wiki, and now you can get at all the good stuff that lives on the wiki. And you will stay logged in for a long time, like months. But at some point, you will have to re-log in again. I had to do it last weekend and I kind of freaked out a little bit because I'd forgotten how to do it, but then I had the slides and I went through the steps and voila, I'm back on the wiki. So when you're on the home page, scroll down and you will see the confidentiality agreement. As I said, this is a form that must be signed by all volunteers who have access to other people's confidential information. So that includes email addresses, phone numbers, things like that. It is a requirement of the European GDPR laws. We have to do this. So do it first thing and get it out of the way. So as you scroll down, you will come to the confidentiality agreement part of the wiki. Click on the link there, and the next slide will tell you what to do. These are the steps that you are going to follow. You'll have to fill out the form, email it back. Remember that the two-letter code for Spain is ES. Okay, so follow the steps on this slide and send in your confidentiality form. It might seem tedious, but it's really important. And the good news is you only have to do this once. Once you have submitted a confidentiality agreement, so if you've already volunteered at a global presidential primary or some other DA event where you were using lists of people's information, you already have one of these on file. You don't have to do it again. Okay. So now that you've completed your confidentiality form, you're ready to host or volunteer at an event. So the first thing you need to decide is, what type of event is it? Why is that important? Because depending on the type of event you're hosting, some of your materials and the promotion of your event will be different. So think about how you are presenting yourself and who you will be speaking to. You might remember this slide from our first session. These are the different variations of the website votefromabroad.org. We've added the Spanish version too, because you will sometimes find people who are more comfortable filling out forms in Spanish. But right now we're going to look at the last site on the list, which is called Sandbox. And we're going to check out some of the incredible resources that are available on this website for any voter registration event. This is what the Sandbox website looks like. It's the same as the Vote from Abroad website. It's a mirror. It's exactly the same, except it has more stuff and it's just for us. Okay, and it has that red banner at the top to tell you that you're not on the customer facing website. You're on the volunteer facing website. On the right-hand side, there's a link that says for volunteers. If you click on that, it will take you to an amazing list of resources. We don't have time to go through everything now, but please do take some time after the meeting today or in the days ahead to look through all the information linked on that page. And be sure to check back every time you hold an event because new information and new content is added regularly throughout the year. So on the For Volunteers page, as we scroll down, on the left-hand side, you will see that one of the really helpful items is called voter registration in a box. And if you click on that link, you will open a Google Drive that has folders organized by type of content. Here you can find all kinds of materials to print or post online, from cards and posters to QR codes and even Zoom backgrounds like the one that I'm using today. There's a separate link on that For Volunteers page that is student voter registration in a box because, as we've mentioned before, student events are nonpartisan and don't have any Democrats abroad branding. If you're going to print materials and you want to personalize them, note that Spain, Barcelona, Madrid, Malaga, and Seville have their own logo sets, and those are available on the wiki. Remember the wiki where you went to get your confidentiality form? You have to be logged in as described on slide 11, and you can get to this page. We'll send the link in the slide deck later, and you can get all of these logos for the different chapters and for DA Spain. Alicante, Granada, and Valencia do not currently have logos, but if you want those, they can be created. Just contact me and I'll get you in touch with the team that can do that for you. And now I'm going to turn things over to Anuradha.
So, hi. So now you've got all the material that you would like to use in the events. Now, the question is, where do we hold the event? A physical event is what we are talking about. And so the important thing is start looking now, talk to owners. Maybe you know a local cafe, a wine bar, etc. Very important considerations, which are all listed over here, is they cannot be too noisy. Do try and ensure that there's Wi-Fi, because that can be a disaster otherwise. And accessibility would be a major plus. So essentially, these are regular scheduled chapter gatherings. Could have, for example, Barcelona has some called Wake Up Wednesday, Thursdays. These would be obvious places because somebody's already done the work for us. We've found some spots where we can actually hold DA events. Let's see. You can also organize special events for the purpose of registering members. So, for example, as Ada just mentioned in her little blip, and bigger blip chart, mid-January onwards is the International Voter Registration Day. We know it's going to be 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, something around that time. But maybe if we think in advance, we could try to find a space from now. We are end of October, so we have November and December to think it out, but all the time keeping in mind the few things we talked about: noise level, accessibility, Wi-Fi, etc. And next slide, please. Let me look at it. Yeah, the other place that we could start looking at are where clubs, groups, meetup groups, welcome fairs, all kinds of places where we expect Americans to be around. It could be a city fair, it could be a welcome event. For example, Barcelona, there's an outfit called Barcelona Activa from the city council. And they have a welcome cocktail mid-September, which would be an ideal time for starting, the bigger part of that graph that we talked about, where we ramp up the vote from abroad registrations. There's another thought on this one is just to add, for example, high schools, colleges, more American-centric associations, American Society of Barcelona, American Society of Madrid, etc., etc. But the important thing always, these are non-partisan events. So we're not going to go there as DA, we are going to go there as Vote from Abroad, so vfa.org. And Annie, back to you for the next slide.
Okay, thank you. So you've got an idea in mind. You've printed some flyers or made some online flyers. You have posters with QR codes to hand out. And remember, at the next session, we're going to talk about the actual mechanics of assisting voters. But at this point, for your planning, what else do you need? The number one thing you need is volunteers, both to assist voters on the day of the event and to attract potential voters, both on that day and ahead of time. So imagine you're at a farmer's market, for example. Wouldn't it be great to have people on your team wandering around and saying to people that they hear speaking English, American English, say, "Hey, did you know there's a voter registration booth over there? Remember to fill out that FPCA form." Voters are going to need to get onto the VFA site. So when you're planning your location, as Honorata said, it's super important to have Wi-Fi. Check it out before you go. Maybe have a portable Wi-Fi that you can take with you. Some voters are going to have to print their FPCAs, so you might want to have a portable printer. And remember that even though DA cannot provide free stamps, which is considered sort of a monetary inducement to vote, we do tell volunteers to provide stamps and voters can reimburse the stamps. So we can have them and get paid back for them. We can't give them away. And when we host a VFA event, naturally that's going to come with some costs. Generally, we don't spend a lot of money, but printing, for example, is usually our biggest expense. As part of the Democratic Party, we are subject to the Federal Election Commission's finance rules, which means that if we spend money, we have to declare it. We have to declare what we spend and how we spend it. So let's say you go to the printer and you spend 35 euros on posters. You're going to have to either seek reimbursement for those 35 euros, or you have to declare the expenditure as an in-kind donation if you don't expect to be reimbursed. There are two forms to do that, and they're both on the wiki. Okay, the link above again works only if you are signed into the wiki, and these links will be on the slides when you receive them. One frustrating thing for us is the collection of money pursuant to these rules. So while we never charge for voter registration events, sometimes chapters think it would be nice to defray expenses by, for instance, having a bake sale. And this is a problem because the money collected is considered a donation to the Democratic Party. And so we have to abide by FEC rules. And there are ways to do this, but it's really quite a headache and a heartache. So we figure that the best thing is not to offer anything for sale. If you want to have baked goods to give away, that's a different story, but we can't sell things. If you want to sell t-shirts or things like that we can do through the website, please follow up with me. Those would be slightly larger expenses. And so you could probably do that at an event by having the item available on the website and promoting it that way. Helen or I can help you to navigate through that so that we don't get ourselves in trouble. Okay, so the first thing to remember, again, consider what type of event you're having, We do not advertise or promote student voter registration events on Democrats Abroad sites or on social media. However, we do encourage you to use social media and Nation Builder, which is our internal email database, to promote voter registration events for all of our members through targeted emails and through posting of events. If you're in a chapter or a precinct, you may have a local social media account, so use that to promote your event. And if you're outside of a chapter or a precinct, we have an IT team that will assist you to send emails to local DA members. If you're not in a chapter or precinct, you might want to have a mentor for your first event. So please reach out to one of us and we will help you to get things set up. And we will also get you in touch with the IT team to set up communications. Democrats Abroad Spain has a newsletter that comes out periodically, and you can, of course, promote any DA registration, voter registration events in the newsletter. Because it doesn't come out very frequently, you need to plan ahead to make sure that the information is included in time. We also have a Spain announcements group on Signal, which is another good place to get the word out to Spain-wide members, including people who are not in chapters. Okay, and the other thing that I want to just mention is that you should always remember DA Spain is part of a highly organized global organization. And DA Global sends out targeted emails to our members and develops social media for worldwide distribution. So we don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel on things, and we don't want to clash with what Global is doing. So for instance, if you want to organize an International Voter Registration Day event in January to get folks to submit their FPCAs, you can be sure that Vote from Abroad will be messaging about that day. So you might find it useful to tag on to the global email like a day later, sending out a message of your own saying, did you see yesterday's email regarding Vote from Abroad's International Voter Registration Day? Well, we're having an event right here in Madrid or Mallorca or Granada. So the two links above on this slide are to the GOTV global calendar and the global social media calendar. Okay, those are Google Docs. You don't need to go into the wiki to see them, but you can see the programming of the global teams and you can time your own communications to work together with theirs. Okay, and then just briefly about voter registration of the military. Here in Spain, we have a special team that handles these events. And if you live near one of the US bases in Spain and you're interested in helping to register military personnel and their family members, please let us know and we'll put you in touch with that team. They will use the fvap.gov website to help the military register to vote. We do not use Vote from Abroad on those events. So it's a separate training that you would probably want to do. You can do it on their website, on the FVAP website. Okay, I'm going to turn this back to Honorata, who's our specialist in school events. You're on mute.
Okay. So the most important thing is we cannot really build something if it's not there to begin with. So when we talk about international high schools, which hopefully have not only kids in grade 12, but we're also hoping to target the faculty and staff who have US passports. So the first thing is we have to build a relationship with, you can call it the school director, the secretary, the leader, maybe you know somebody whose kid goes to that school. There are ways of doing it. If you know nobody who's going to an international school in Malaga or wherever, Murcia, my point is then that would probably need an in-person, hello, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do. Do you have any Americans? Can we talk about holding a voter registration event at your school? And this is what we target, and etc. So it's not just saying hello, there's continuous follow-up. So you have to have a regular contact. Definitely the ideal end of the school year. So we're talking not the final week because they're got enough on their plates. But let's say by May or early June, we tell them, you know what, we would like to start our voter registration. When are you guys back on track after the summer holidays? What can we do? Do it in person. Some of the schools here have said, tell us at least 3 weeks in advance so we can put it in the newsletter and have faculty, staff, students prepped that such an event is going to be held at the library, at wherever, at their convenience. So that's one. And so again, we are, for example, now in late November, early December. This is the time because always remember that every voter, whether registered or a new person being registered, previously registered or currently to be registered, we have to re-register ourselves in January, meaning in the calendar year of the year that we want to vote. So the deadline, the aim is that talking to the schools, once you've set up some kind of relationship, get to them by early December latest, which they will publish and propagate through posters, through whatever, in January, which kind of starts our year of doing the January International Voter Registration event, which is mid-January. So that's very, very important. And if you don't know what kinds of texts, how do I write to a school blind? I mean, I don't know anybody there. My kids don't go there. I don't know people with kids. So maybe apart from the wiki, actually, I'm not sure, Annie, if I'm right on that. But there might be sample templates. But you know what? At this point, just write to me. And I do have, over the years, certain kinds of introducing ourselves and voter VFA material. So that would be one kind of event. Annie, the next slide, please.
Yes, we can put those on the wiki as well.
Yeah, we can put them on
Templates for letters.
Yeah. And then so I'm making a distinction. One is international high schools, faculty, staff, students. The other one is events to be held at myriads of study abroad programs, which are all over Spain. Lucky for us, everyone loves Spain. They want to study Spanish, etc. Coming for a semester, coming for a year. Again, the basic is still the same. Identify the programs in your area. So wherever you are, identify, and those can be a Google search, contact the directors, start building a relationship with them. The difference between high schools and study abroad is just really one major difference. The high schools are for the whole academic year. Somebody enters and leaves by June. For study abroad, they could be 3 months, 6 months traditionally. Maybe there's something more than 6 months. So the period of the study abroad. So we need to contact, there'll be many more times during the year for study abroad, maybe in January, or no, not in January, the same thing, November, December. When does your session start? In January. Somebody will say it starts in January. The next session starts in March. Great. What's your calendar? Can we do something during orientation day when you have all the students coming for the first time, etc. So study abroad, I would say a minimum we reach out 3, if not 4 times. And the last one is September. Again, the big push, because that's the absolute last time that we can get people to register to vote, send their ballots, etc., and have them all counted on November 4th or the first week. So this is the major difference. And the next slide is,
Oh, I skipped one, sorry.
no worries. And this is what I've identified after reading the three kinds of groups of Americans, which have to do with school, study abroad, who are still, frankly,
Undergraduates.
yeah, undergraduates. And then we can look at the postgrad programs. So the postgrad programs, again, international MBAs, scientists, people getting their PhDs, the numbers might be less, but the process, as you can well understand, first thing is we need to identify them, right? So we for example, I taught at the University of Barcelona. University of Barcelona actually has an international office where they have not only for undergraduate, they also have at the master's program, some in the PhD program. The numbers decrease, obviously. But the point is, maybe we have to find this kind of school, school in the American sense, university, postgrads, and where they are. In Barcelona, I discovered design schools, architectural schools, science. I'm a scientist, so scientific programs. This is a third genre of events that could be held all the time. The target is the same: students, teachers, staff, maybe, and then trickling down to partners, friends. And if they have message boards, social media, QR codes, that kind of thing. They are adults, one hopes they're above 22, and maybe they can, if we make our posters sexy enough, they could, scan the QR code. But the important thing is we would not be allowed to do any of this unless we contact the director / program coordinator at such organizations. That's it. That's what I wanted to say. Back to you, Annie.
Thank you. Okay, so these are the next sessions that we have coming up. As you can see, there's a lot of different things to keep in your heads. So I'll be sending these slides and links and the recording and everything out to everybody as soon as the meeting is over and the recording finishes downloading to YouTube. You have on this slide the information about our upcoming sessions. Note that the session on November 18th is at 6:30, not 7:30, okay? Because we have to coordinate with Heidi, who is in a different time zone, and that works better for her. And then on Tuesday, December 9th, we will be putting all the pieces together, and hopefully everybody will start having a plan germinating in their heads for International Voter Registration Day in January. So we can start out the year with a bang. And also here you will have a link to the first session, which was last month, for anybody who was not able to attend that one. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And does anybody have questions?
Oof.
I again apologize profusely for the technical difficulties. And I apologize to the people who are not able to attend to this live and are listening on the recording. All very well explained. Okay, go ahead, Doris.
Hi, I'm just getting my video on. One sec, I'm on my phone, so it never works right. Just a comment about the schools. Yes, last night when we had our debriefing from the protest, people were talking about language schools. And we think that's also a good source to go and visit. There are lots of language schools in Barcelona, people who come to study Spanish, more than Catalan, but anyway. And we think that's probably also a good source of finding Americans. So language schools is also there with the schools.
With the
True.
MBAs and things. Yeah, that's a good
And
idea.
definitely in Alicante, Malaga, Granada, definitely that would be excellent. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, that's one. I'm actually curious, since we have a minute or two, for Alexia and Ali and Pam, would you think of any other kinds of places that we could approach? The approach is still the same. Get to know the person, see where we can put up stuff. Can we actually hold something in their courtyard or whatever? But what other kinds of organizations? I mean, like Malaga has all those museums. I don't know. I'm just thinking, I'm asking you if there are other kinds of dance schools. I have no idea.
I don't live in Malaga City. I live about 30 minutes outside.
Okay.
Joined a lot of Facebook groups, even in our town. So I think
Okay.
that's one way. We are also hosting on November 8th a picnic called Picnic and Chit Chat.
Perfect.
So those are the kinds we're trying to get younger voters. And I'm also wondering, is it a good idea to appoint a student coordinator for your chapter to help with getting student votes?
Yeah, we had a team actually here in Barcelona last year, and there were, I think, 4 of us that were in the core group, right? Honorata, Doris, Rob, and I, and we had a calendar, and we scheduled all the different events at the different programs here in
Study
Barcelona.
abroad, all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot even for one person, depending on how many programs are in your city. Um, and it also depends on the year. So like this year it was an odd year. A
Mhm.
lot of the programs didn't want to have events during their sessions, during their reserved time. They didn't want to give us any of that time, but they did include information in their newsletters to the students, and they let us put up posters, and we tried to get the word out, but it was harder. It was harder. During federal election years, which next year will be, they will be more receptive to us coming
Yeah.
to their, their matriculation days or whatever, onboarding sessions when the students are all there. And sometimes they'll even let us, show some slides or walk the kids through, everybody pull out your phone, go to vote from abroad, student.votefromabroad.org, and you walk them through. And I mean, these kids are so fast on their phones. By the time you're finished explaining the third screen, they've gone through the whole thing and finished and uploaded their signature and sent it in, they're really quick. So the student events are, depending on how many schools you have, you definitely want to have one coordinator for those events locally if you can find somebody to do it, and maybe a couple of people on the team to go visit.
Yeah,
And
but
then-
Annie, to answer Pamela's question, if I heard it correctly, you were wondering whether we have ever experimented with having a student coordinator, right?
Mhm.
You mean a person who's 18 plus, young,
Right.
who
Right.
is doing this? I have to say, either we're filled with fuddy-duddies here or whatever, I have no idea. But it's a brilliant idea, as Annie just said, a student coordinator going to a study abroad, honestly, and is much faster uh, getting things done. Meaning actually walking away with maybe 6 registrations. But it's not at all a bad idea. The question is, how would you find in in the DA members or Americans, or that's something that could be done on a one-on-one, just trying to
We
attract.
do have members who may know of families who have children in international schools.
Yep.
I think you have to go through the get out the vote training,
Right.
don't you think?
Oh, definitely,
They have to.
definitely. Because
Yeah,
it's,
and I think they would also have to be here for at least a year.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
right.
Students are here for
Um,
6 months, yeah.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have young people, but the problem is they're not very stable,
Yeah.
student age, but slightly older that are still cool, that's really
Yeah.
helpful. Because if my first volunteers, I mean, I've done that in the local university where they have a lot of tons of exchange students every year. The first volunteers that came to me were just people that gave me the impression they were not going to connect very well with young people. So I sort of I'm still looking around for younger people who can, that I think is helpful to find, to be able to approach them and have a little chat and then take them through the process.
Yeah,
But
and not just take them through the process. I mean, legally, they have to go through the GOTV training.
oh yeah, no,
Right,
they
Annie?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've done it. I'm the only one who's done the training, and I'm the one who's doing that. What I did have is one person came with me last week to sort of she hasn't
Help.
done the training, but she was kind of channeling, like
Well,
come talk to
absolutely.
somebody, and then they
Yeah.
would come more to me if they actually had questions. It was just sort of an approach. It was helpful, but I'm going to try to
Okay.
get her to get trained and
Yeah. But you're right. I think the 30, around 30 to 35
yeah,
might be
yeah.
a better, when you said stable also to do with,
And who understands really the nature of this. That's
yeah.
not, it's not just, oh yeah, that'd be fun. Let's go do that, and it does take a bit of preparation. It can be frustrating. Yes, a young person whisperer, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what Rachel says.
Are any other countries engaging young people in a good way that we can ask how they're doing that?
Yes, at the EMEA meeting, unfortunately, Ada has gone now, but at the EMEA meeting last 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, one of the sessions was talking about internships. Interns can be really helpful if you can get like somebody who's on a study abroad program who wants to get extra credit or class credits for doing some certain number of hours per week or per month with a job that would be with Democrats Abroad. We tried that last year, and to be honest, the young person who reached out to us and wanted to work with us ended up completely flaking out and not helping at all.
Mm.
So that was a learning experience because it was a lot of work that Kathy Toulouse and I can't remember who the other person was who helped her. They did all this paperwork and all of spent tons of time with this young woman, and then she just didn't live up to her end of the bargain, unfortunately. So that's something else to keep in mind if you take on young volunteers who are only here for a short period of time.
Yeah.
I'm
But
reading
on
you. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was just going to say, on the other hand, this semester here in Barcelona, we had a young woman reach out to us who's studying in Barcelona just for the term, and she wanted to help in any way. And so we printed up a bunch of posters and she put them around in the places where the students go. And that was really helpful because there are places that we as non-students can't get access to, like the residence halls and things. And so it was really good to have a young person who was sort of an ally to Democrats Abroad, or who would even just putting up vote from abroad posters, because they can't put up partisan literature or put out partisan literature. But I give her a bunch of cards and vote from abroad posters, and she put them up around the residence halls and the study centers and the places where the students hung out, and that was helpful. So so you just have to kind of work with what's available.
Yeah, so I'm going to cut in here because I'm reading Kaylee. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Kaylee? Okay, so Kaylee is in Galicia, and that's, this is what her question was about. So, for example, yes, we don't have a chapter there right now, but how could a person like Kaylee, who looks young,
Yes, I am young, thank you.
definitely younger than me, that's for sure. Okay, but I'm just thinking that with your enthusiasm that you've actually joined this thing and you want to know how to do things, what, Annie, in the past, what kinds of things could we do to assist Kaylee? For example, people whom we already know who are living in Galicia, to get you connected if you're not already connected, something like that. if you have a suggestion, specifically you have a suggestion, I was thinking, I don't know, there's this all-nighter at a university, and maybe I can put up posters, or there's a protest happening here all over Spain. Can I try and do it over there? And you need some advice. Where would Kaylee look for resources and or people?
Yeah,
that
it's, I mentioned this on one of the slides. You can reach
Yeah.
out to me and I'll help you set up,
Exactly.
I can help you to think about the best possible. I mean, I think we would need to talk for, one-on-one for a while and see what the possibilities are there and what you have available. Mark Morris, who is on the call, is the secretary for DA Spain, so he can get a list for you of the members in the area if you want to contact DA members and have a DA event. But if what you want to do is just for broader American public, then you would go about it differently. So,
Yeah.
or maybe
And
you
if
want to do both. Maybe you want to do
Yeah,
both.
and if you do want to help with voter registration, then you do have to go through the GOTV training. That's for sure. Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
what we'll do on November 18th.
Okay. Any other? I'm looking at the chat. I don't see other questions. How long have you been in Galicia, Kelly?
For 1 year.
Oh, wonderful.
Where are
Welcome.
you exactly?
I'm in A Coruña.
Oh, I think that's
Okay.
where
Rachel Bantinyan.
she's from A Coruña.
I have to figure it out. We have a DA member here in Barcelona, and her family is from Galicia, so she keeps going back and forth. Her,
I see.
father's 85, etc. So anyway, we could even get you connected with her.
Annie,
Yeah.
I had a question.
Yes.
Maybe I made this up in my head, but did you say something before about you via Democrats Abroad have all of the information of people? Like we are in Mallorca. Do you know all the members of Democrats Abroad that are in Mallorca?
Yes, we can get that information.
Okay, because
Send
that's
out a mailing. We
Oh,
can
yeah.
filter our database of members by
Mhm.
by the location. Mallorca, Mark can answer that. I see him coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I can get that information. I've looked at this before, and I know there are in the Balearics, the easiest way to search is by the first two digits of the postal code.
Okay.
And in the Balearics, there are something over 100 members of DA, but
Right.
we've never been able to get people to organize, so that they actually, so that there was actually a functioning organization there.
Mhm.
And this is Kathy, and these are just two pieces of information on subjects that were previously discussed. One is we did actually have one successful intern about 1.5 years ago who got 1 hour of credit for doing a bunch of organizing work for us, Hunter Baldridge in Madrid.
Oh, right.
And the other piece of information is so it can be done. You take it kind of on a case by case basis. And the second thing is there is actually a fairly up-to-date list of study abroad programs and coordinators of those programs all over Spain.
Yes.
And there are 2 copies of that list available if anybody wants to work on that kind of project.
I have just the Barcelona part of that, so I'd love to see the whole list.
Yeah, Kathy Cleaver has a list, Kathy Cleaver in Valencia, and Jim Mercereau in Madrid.
Yeah,
has
I
the other.
emailed Jim yesterday, but I haven't heard back from him
And
yet.
are they on the wiki?
No,
No. Okay.
I'll insist with Jim. Thank you, Kathy.
So, Kathy, tell us, my question is, I mean, both of you mentioned that you can access the database, Barcelona, Madrid, Malaga, Mallorca. I can only assume that there is no violation of privacy, right? Because we are all, for example, if I got a list of 20 people living in Barcelona, I want to do something, I'm just assuming. Can you answer that?
Okay,
That's actually a Mark question.
yeah, okay, so, there are a limited number of people who are authorized and trained to use Nation Builder, which is the database program. If you have executed a confidentiality agreement and have a need for a need for information, we can extract that information from the system.
There are handling requirements.
Yeah, there are restrictions about that. For example, the list can only exist for 30 days and has to be destroyed at the end of 30 days.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
And and obviously you would get that list subject to the confidentiality provisions, and you can only use it for the purpose for which it was generated.
Makes sense. Okay,
But
thank you.
But there are ways for us to get information to people who have a need for the information and have executed confidentiality agreements.
Right. So at the end of this call, if either Danielle or Kaylee want to reach out, well, they would reach out to Annie, and then Annie would direct.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat box.
Perfect, perfect. For something like this, just to wrap
Yeah.
it up.
I would just
Nice.
bounce them off to Mark, basically.
Wanna-
And I may end up bouncing, and I may end up needing to go to Andy to actually generate
yeah.
a list. That's
Also,
Mhm.
hello,
Go
can I
ahead,
say one thing?
Alexia. Yes.
I was in that situation recently because I'm not authorized to use Nation Builder because I haven't had time to do the training. But I did want to communicate with all the members in Granada. So I asked one of the people who is authorized to send it out for me. And she created the event and she sent out an email. So I didn't have any
Wow,
I didn't have any access to the actual details because they just went out from the system. But all of the people were informed of what I wanted to inform them of. So
perfect.
that
right.
was
And
helpful.
something like that's really pretty easy for me to do. I mean, if for example, Kaylee, you're the one in A Coruña, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
If you wanted to send an email blast to members in either just in the area of A Coruña or throughout Galicia, we could create, we could work together to create the text and who you wanted it to go to. And I could generate the email blast to those people.
Perfect.
This is very useful information. Thank you.
Yeah, because you have Thanksgiving and goodies coming up and maybe, something like that. And that gives you time to hopefully do this thing in January, months away in someone's basement. Who knows? We never know. And in the meantime, you've made some friends along the way. So I think
Exactly.
it's a win-win situation,
Exactly.
right? Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording here.
Oh, yeah.
And